she said, you weren't there just a minute ago. She literally has an invisible field. She develops such don't talk, don't trust, don't feel. Does she have a quiet voice? Is she monotone? Does she have no affect? Yes, and Stockholm Syndrome, one time I had her case manager call me, she said, I know we'll never have to do another review with you because it's virtually almost impossible. She's the only person I've ever had that truly had a Stockholm Syndrome, but it is really difficult to, because it's so ingrained in the person to, you know, anytime you try to go about the abuse, the person is like, you know, that person was my hero, you know, it's just the weirdest thing in the world. But she's made a little incremental progress, but yeah, that was a tough one. But people can have invisible energy fields. They can have don't talk, don't trust, don't feel. So the personality they present with may not truly be their personality. Just keep that in mind. So a lot of times as you work with them and you do some of this work that you'll see today, and hopefully you'll start practicing some of it, as you do this, you will see a new personality come out of this person that was quiet, that had no voice, that talked quietly. And if you're cognizant of that, you can actually work with that and be like, let's use your voice. I do some chakra Reiki stuff with them on the throat chakra to help them get that region opened. That you can actually help them speak, help them exercise their vocal cords that they haven't used in years, help them change their frequency, and actually they'll become the person that they were meant to be. You are a facilitator of helping them to rewrite their script. It's an amazing phenomenon. So self-view is also, and you know, that can come from a myriad of things also. And then cultural and environmental expectations. You know, I had someone come in quite older and, you know, basically, I'm gonna be crude here, I do a lot of sex therapy too. So, you know, her vagina had collapsed, basically. You don't have, I don't know if y'all know this, but if you don't have sex in 2 or 3 years, your vagina closes. So you literally have to exercise, you know, work with them to get some little toys and make it work again. And she was raised in a very religious background and then had sexual trauma on top of it. And so the sexual work I was doing with her was really tough, but it started to work. She was able to do it the other day, so I was really proud of her. So some of these things, you gotta be confident enough in yourself, know enough, and go into these areas, because sex is a lot of taboo, but it is an important aspect because there's so much sexual trauma. I see a lot of men that have been sexually traumatized too as kids. So it is among all genders, it is very high and very prevalent, and you need not be afraid to step into those areas because that is the only way you're gonna help these people actually recover. I'm sorry, I am not a rah-rah about cognitive behavioral. Because as you'll see by the end of this, why that doesn't work. That only works for immediate problem solving with people who are pretty intact. You get broken people, it is not gonna work. And you're only gonna make them feel guilty because they're gonna know logically they should be doing this and they're not gonna be able to do it. And they're gonna read a ton of books and get it all in their head and be like, I know this, I know this, I know this, and nothing's gonna change. Okay? So, you gotta realize there's places for that, but in the work you're doing with addictions, in the primitive area of the brain, that stuff just is not good. It's only gonna make them, it's gonna cycle them in their addiction, okay? Cycle them into their failure and their guilt. I just gotta have a drink. I just gotta pop a pill. I just feel so terrible. I can't do anything right. Yeah, we don't wanna be a participant in their failure, do we? So you just tell them, you don't need to read all those books, let's do one, and let's work from the inside out. That's the only way you're gonna get this change. How many of you can relate? Yes. Anybody have something to say? I feel like I'm dominating this room. What is wrong with that? Oh, thank you. Yes, I could use water. See, I love the codependents who love to care for me. Oh, thank you. I will take that.
And will you move your shoes, please?
Oh my God, I'm being taken care of. That is amazing. Okay, so stress, we'll have a stressful thought and perception. So remember, a lot of times stress does not hit your mind. It first, that's why cognitive behavioral doesn't work, because it hits our underlying sensory mechanisms and creates a sensation we interpret as stress, and then guess what? We go gather a file that interprets it. And that file may be true, it may be a malfunctioning file system, which I talk a lot about. I don't know that I'm going to get on that here, but yeah, there's systems that don't work well. People with addictions have major system defuncts. So their thoughts related to that stress may be 10% accurate, maybe 3% accurate. Nonetheless, that's their interpretation. It's a perception. I had someone come in the other day and she's like, so I decided that I was going to kill myself because my daughter didn't call me, and I had the plan and everything, and I had the gun. This was, she was talking about a year before, and I had the gun in my head. And all of a sudden my daughter called me and said, what are you doing, Mom? My phone wasn't working. And she said, I realized I had a thought distortion. So people kill themselves over thought distortions. Yes, they do. So then you have a distortion, you have a maybe partially reality, maybe not much reality, okay? So we're dealing with a lot of impaired realities, okay? So you have to read into the picture of the person. You can't always take what they're saying word-wise. You have to see this big picture of who they are, like be this curious, like intellectual guru. I love my field because you know what? I can be 100 years old, sit there demented, barely listening, and they'll think I'm amazing. What other field can you be in and be 100? I remember I used to work with Dr. Chester, who was head over Griffith. Oh, I don't remember. Anyway, he was like 92 years old, and he'd be coming lunch with me and tell me about the schizophrenic farms. And they had, Dr. Donahue, that's what I'm thinking of. And he would tell me about the schizophrenic farms they had, and he was still teaching classes. I was just so impressed. He was fun to talk to. So the survival reaction hits the adrenal glands, then all your energy sources start getting used up, which then cause physiological problems, illnesses, anxiety, depression, all of that starts happening. So really, that's why you can have a person, you'll hear what they're stressed about and be like, okay. But you know, they're totally stressed out. So it's a lot of it's perception. And we're going to talk a lot about perception today. So then you've got other factors, you know, like the intermediate factors where there's a stressor and maybe they're fatigued, or we talked a lot, I always have to include pregnancy because it was such a lot part of my life. Illnesses, environments, and then the long-term factors that have to do with your age and you know how your body absorbs nutrients, genetic factors, chronic diseases. All those are factors in how a person regulates and modulates stressors. So you have to, as a clinician, you have to be really broad thinking and put all of these things in perspective as you're doing treatment with people. Okay, it's not a one-stop shop. It's a lot of responsibility and a lot of growth as you develop the art as a therapist. You know, and you're always learning. I'm always learning because science is ever learning, and you want to keep up with all the new stuff that's coming up because it helps you be a better clinician. So I'm just going to tap on this. I do a lot of, I'll work on companies, I'll go in and talk, especially kind of nepotism companies that are small, and there's all the involuted stuff with power and control because it's family members who are hiring these people. You know, my brother and my sister's hiring these people, and you got these big collisions. So I do a lot of these, but this is something as a therapist I want you to put in your frame of reference because I don't think many therapists do. thinking about workplace stress. I had someone come in the other day who was a CEO, and they were doing changes in divisions, and she presented with anxiety and depression, and actually like an acute stress reaction because of the position that she was being kind of jerked around, and she had to pick and choose who she was going to lead with. And that's an important aspect you may just like overlook, like housework, what's your work history, da-da-da, as you're doing psychosocial, and that may actually be the main factor that they're dealing with, because 20% of all job absences are related and present as anxiety, depression, or some sort of illness. That's the only stat I'm going to give you today. Aren't you glad? That's an easy one to remember. I think it's 20.3, but I'm going to round it down. And workplace stress affects the morale, where you got, I have these teenagers I turn into monsters, and then I have to reconvert them. They'll come in and they'll be like self-mutilators and dark, but they're really just geniuses, they're old souls. And so as I help them understand how brilliant they are, maybe a little Aspergerish or whatever, and on the bell curve, you're just kind of on the end, like really brilliant. All of a sudden it dawns on them how smart they are and how much more they know than all the kids around them, and how they can pretend to be just the same because that's easy to go down, and they realize how, and then they become bullies. And then I'm like, oh my God, you converted from the total dark geek to the bully. Now we gotta rein you in. So you gotta watch that step up. When kids are bullies as teenagers, guess what they grow up to be as adults? Adult bullies. Bullying happens a lot in the workplace, and you need to be aware that that may be one of the very pending, and guess what, developmentally, if an adult